Welcome to Write Now Workshop Podcast, where you can write a book and change the world. I'm your host, Kitty Bucholtz, and this is episode 274, Dancing with Wisdom, an interview with Dr. Sunil Raheja, coming to you on Thursday, November 18th, 2021. I hope your writing is going well. As of today, the 18th of November, I have written 18 days in a row and posted on the NaNoWriMo website. So I'm very proud of myself, very happy. Some of the days, it's been a very, very small word count, but I wrote and I posted and I was very happy with myself. On the day that I did a lot of words and I was very, very happy with myself, I got behind in all the rest of my work. So I imagine some of you are nodding your head going, yep, been there, done that also. But hopefully you are getting your writing done in whatever way that works for you. If nano is the way, and a little bit of pushing, a little bit of a gamification, a little bit of competition among friends, if that works for you, excellent. I hope you're doing a great job. Don't quit, no matter what. And if you're like, yeah, that's not for me, or this year it wasn't good timing, whatever is the way that writing is working for you right now, that's the way you should do it. And again, I encourage you, don't quit, because you have great ideas inside that are just waiting to come out. And there are people who are going to want to read them. And the reason why I know this is because there are so many books that you and I both are like, oh my gosh, that book was so good. Oh, that was so good. Oh, that was so good. I'm enjoying this book right now. I just started a book by Brian Freeman that I was like waiting, and I wanted to really be able to take a good amount of time, like hours, and really get a lot of the book done in big chunks, so I could really enjoy the thrill and the suspense of the well, it's a thriller. So I love those moments, and to think that you and I have books in us that somebody somewhere is going to be like, oh, I can't wait until that book comes out because I loved the last books that they wrote. That is why we were doing this. We want to entertain people. We want to entertain ourselves as we're writing. We want to probably be making a living from this as well. So I'm just going to keep on going with the don't quit, don't quit. Keep on going in the way that works for you. I'm very happy for you. I'm very happy for both of us. And if you are thinking, but I'm a little stuck, or I have a friend who's a little stuck, or a friend who's been wanting to write a book and just doesn't know how to begin, you probably know, if you've been listening for a while, that I'm also a writing coach, and I love, love, love it. I love helping people. I love helping people to get excited again about the story, to figure out the best possible ways to tell the story, to send me some pages, and I give them some feedback, and then they're even more excited about the story. And a lot of times right after the call, people immediately start writing again, and it just makes me so happy. So I am not a huge fan of the pressure of a Black Friday sale. Like, you either have to hurry up and purchase on Friday, purchase before all of these items that we have are out, which, sometimes a store will say, this item is on sale for 75% off. But when you go there, you realize there were only 6 of them, and there are 100 people in the store who are thinking about getting it. That's just not the kind of pressure that I find fun. Or, maybe on Amazon, where there's a special for an hour on this product, and then the next hour it's this product. And some people find that kind of shopping really fun. I don't really enjoy it that much. So I wanted to do something for you that kind of worked more with the way that I like to shop. So for my writing coaching program, I am offering for the rest of the year, from now until the rest of the year, 2021, $250 off my most popular coaching program. And if you choose one of the other programs instead, it's still $250 off. And what you'll get is 6 months of working with me, 2 hours. So 2 1-hour phone calls a month. So every 2 weeks we get on a phone call. We talk about what's working, what's not working, where are you at with character or plotting, or if you're not a plotter, that's totally fine, but where are you in the story? What are you having trouble with? What do you need encouragement for? What do you need to figure out how to do research on something that you want to put in the story, but you don't know how to find the information? And then sending me 20 pages a month to give you feedback feedback and tell you you're doing great in this part. This is where you could do a little bit better in that part. If this sounds like something that sounds like the perfect gift that you would like someone to give to you, or that you'd like to give to someone else, email me, kitty@kittybucholtz.com, and I will send you the link to my scheduler. We'll get on a call, make sure that what you're writing is something that I feel confident and really good about being able to help you with. Make sure our personalities match, because personality, like in any relationship, plays a big part in it. And what will happen is that you'll get 6 months of working with me for $2,500 instead of $2,750 if you pay by the end of the year. So that's December 31st, 2021. Or if you need the payment plan, I'll still give you the payment plan on the lower price. So that would be $500 a month for 6 months. So you would have it paid off by the time you finished working with me. Of course, we can renew if you or your friend or whoever it is wants to continue, we can continue doing that. Then my prices are going up in January. So I wanted people to have an opportunity to maybe give themselves a gift, give their friend a gift, and get like the kind of the shopping thrill of the Black Friday sale and get a really good price. The coaching program that is currently $2,750 that I'm offering for $2,500 will start at $3,000 in January. Now, the other thing you might be thinking is, but I don't know if me or my friend has time to really start this right now. The great part is that, again, this is the way that I would love to shop. I want to buy it while it's on sale, but I want to start it when it's comfortable for me. So then you or the person that you're buying the gift for would be able to start anytime up through December 31st, 2022, which means that if they booked their first call in December 2022, they'd actually be working with me for the first 6 months of 2023. So you have plenty of time to figure out what's the best start time for you, and quite a bit of time for you to get on a call with me, make sure this is the right deal, get your planning in order, get your money in order so that you can take advantage while it's it's the best price that it'll ever be, since it's going up in January. So give me an email, send me an email, kitty@kittybucholtz.com. You can find my name in the podcast notes. And we'll see whether or not this is something that will work out great for you or your friend. I would love to know that some people are getting this as a gift, because I love any kind of gift that has to do with my creativity. So whether it's, writing books, or for my birthday, my husband gave me piano lessons. Very exciting. It just makes me very, very happy. So again, I just wanted to do a sale that'd be the kind of sale that I enjoy. So hopefully you also think that's a fun thing. So let your friends know. Our guest today talks about so many interesting things. And what's particularly fun is that while he's talking about writing your first nonfiction book, the topic of the book actually is super duper interesting and helpful for us as creative people. So the things that we are working through in our life, trying to manage, like I have these big goals and these big dreams, but I also want to see my friends sometimes, have fun sometimes, downtime. If you've been listening to me, I struggle with having enough friend time and downtime and playtime. But Dr. Sunil Raheja has a great book out called Dancing with Wisdom. And he is going to talk about that process, as well as the process of writing his first book, during the interview. So without further ado, let's talk to Dr. Sunil. Today's guest is Dr. Sunil Raheja. Sunil is a psychiatrist and coach who, through his Dancing with Wisdom coaching program, equips overwhelmed, frustrated, and distracted high performers to figure out their next best step so that they can create the life they hunger for and still have time for family, friends, and fun. Welcome, Sunil.
Kitty, it's just wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
I'm so glad that you had, time on your schedule to be on my show, because you and I have been getting to know each other a little bit on and off for the last 6 to 12 months, somewhere in there.
Something like that. I think you're right. That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
And lots of Zoom calls.
Yeah, that's right. And one of the things that was, of course, of interest to me, because anytime anybody is writing anything, that's of interest to me. You have a new book out called Dancing with Wisdom, a sacred quest to restore meaning, purpose, and fun to your life and work.
Yeah, there it is up here. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. It's amazing to get it out. It actually launched on the 17th of March, 2021. And after a long journey, I mean, it really, in a sense, it combines and brings together my experiences as an immigrant coming to the UK as a young child, and trying to make sense of life, and trying to understand British culture and areas of identity between not sure whether I belong to the UK or whether I belong to India, and then often feeling like a fish out of water and struggling with direction in life, becoming a doctor, but really struggling with that. And by the grace of God, qualifying and becoming a doctor and finding my niche in psychiatry. And I left psychiatry last year, as in terms of within the British NHS. But I've always been struggling to work out what I want to do when I grow up. Right. And if you like, the book is really something I wish I'd had 20 years ago. So it talks about my own struggles with that, but also I think my own reflections on my own life, reflections in other people's lives through being a psychiatrist, through my own faith journey as well, and really sort of trying to bring together, the psychological, the spiritual, the emotional, the relational. That's very much how the book came about. Yeah. And I work as a coach within privately now. And in many ways, it's the philosophy behind my coaching program as well, the Dancing with Wisdom coaching program that I created. That's a background to it already. Yeah. And
then you also started a podcast, right? Called Dancing with Wisdom?
Yes, that's right. Well, actually, before that, and it's interesting, the book actually started as a series of blog posts when I was trying to work out that I knew I had something in me that I wanted to write, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. And it's really fascinating because you know how an idea sort of chases you through your life. So that initial podcast was called the Making Sense of Life podcast. And when I look back, one of the very first podcasts that we did was on wisdom. And this is where it gets really spooky. So my daughter got married last year. That was in 2020. And you do the Father of the Bride speech. And so you're sort of preparing, you're thinking back about your life. And then it suddenly dawned on me, we named her Sonia, which is from the Greek Sophia, which means wisdom.
Right. Oh, wow.
So, it's something which, and I think, like I said earlier, I've always felt a fish out of water. I come from India, but I came when I was only about 2.5, 3, coming to a new country at a time which, it's hard to imagine now, but, there was no internet, there was no email. If you wrote a letter, then it would take a week for the letter to arrive. And then if you replied immediately, it would take a week to reply back.
Yeah.
So that sense of disconnection, with where I came from was huge. And I grew up, I always used to feel that India was my home, but I never actually got there until I was about 8 years of age, by which time I really didn't understand the language or the culture. And so the people in India would tell me, you're not Indian, England's your home. And when I was in England, they'd say to me, you're not English, India's your home. And so there was this real struggle that I'm a fish out of water. I just, who am I? Where do I belong? And again, a certain theme that keeps following is that so often I felt like a fish out. So I ended up going to medical school, becoming a doctor, but it just wasn't me. And as I said, by the grace of God, I got through that, and I found a certain niche in psychiatry, because within medicine it was very much about treating people, treating human beings as machines. Right. Whereby, you need to know, about their bones, their arteries, their veins, how the different organs work, which is great. We need people like that. But that just wasn't me. And I realized actually I'm much more relational. I'm much more interested in knowing people, who they are in terms of the things that make them tick, their relationships, their work environment, their social environment, their families. Yeah. And so that certainly, I got a good degree of that within psychiatry. And I did that. I was a psychiatrist with people with learning disabilities. From 2001 to 2020, 19 years within the British NHS. So that's my background there. Yeah.
And it seems like you would have either on purpose or just by sort of default because of the field, that you would have been thinking about wisdom in your practice, how you help people, like how you can provide wisdom, and maybe how you help other people define wisdom in their own life.
Well, no, I think that's a really good point, Kitty, because, we're very focused on technical skills. And again, I don't want to knock it. You need technical skills. They're really important. But we have got so much information now, we're drowning in information.
Yeah.
But for the really important decisions in life, there's no textbook that's going to give you the answers, and I've done a lot of studying and reading, but you realize that when, as it were, the rubber hits the road, you need to, you need wisdom. So, a classic example, in my favorite book, there's a book called Ecclesiastes, and it talks about there are two proverbs. There are two proverbs. In the book of Proverbs, there are two proverbs. One that says, "Answer a fool according to his folly, or he'll be wise in his own eyes." And the very next proverb says, "Don't answer a fool according to his folly, or you'll be like him." Yes. So you're in a meeting, and somebody says something that is completely ridiculous. Should you speak and say something, or should you keep quiet? Now, no textbook's going to tell you that.
Yeah.
But it's going to depend on the context, the subject, how well you know the people, what the matter is, what's going to happen, what's happened up to that date, what's going to happen afterwards. There's no right, but you get it wrong, and it's going to have profound implications.
Yeah.
Should I take this job or should I not take this job? Should I marry this person or not marry this person? Should we move here or live there? Those require wisdom, and you can have lots of data, but actually what you need more than anything else is wisdom. And so I think for my own, making mistakes, so many mistakes in my own life, struggling with this so much, I'll be honest with you, going through a period of depression and burnout in my own life as well. Mm-hmm. It makes you begin to think, where are the answers to this?
Yeah. I heard something, I started struggling with burnout in 2018. And I thought that it was something you could just heal from, like a cold or the flu, and then you would be done. Unfortunately, it's 2021, and I realized it's something that can quickly come back faster than how long it took you to get it the first time if you're not taking care.
Yes.
So it's something that I wasn't sure to believe, but I had read somewhere on a website, Dr. Google, as some people call, that creative people, highly intelligent people, high performers are more likely to succumb to burnout and have that be a problem in their lives than, I don't know, somebody who's not that way. Do you think there's any truth in that?
I think it would make sense, because people who are high performers, people who are very passionate about something, want to give it their all. And the danger is, and I've been there, if I think that I've probably burnt out at least 3 times in my life. And the last time was about 2009, 2008, 2009, that sort of time. And I think that the point being is that you're really passionate about something, but what we forget is we become human doings and we forget we're human beings.
Yeah.
And so we become so focused on tasks and doing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing that we find ourselves running on empty. And if we don't pay attention, we're giving, we're focusing on the next thing. But we're actually human beings first. We're not human doings.
Yeah.
And so much of our identity can be based on what am I achieving, what am I doing? And unfortunately, the culture and society around us just feeds into that more and more. And that's, I think, it's dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I finally began to notice about myself is that, so I went to business school in the 1980s. It was part of the me generation, and, go get what you want, and, do your best, and is what you're doing your best. And somehow I had internalized this idea that I would ask myself, am I doing my best? And if I could think of any other thing that I could do that would make my effort be a little bit better, then I wasn't yet doing my best. And I think that altogether, over the course of 20 years, that's how I end up in this position of burnout, feeling like I still hadn't really given it my best yet. So I should just push harder.
Yes. And I think, and what makes it harder is there's always somebody who's ahead of you. Yeah. There's always a little bit more you can do. It's a little bit more you can give. And I don't know about you, it's like emails, you get through all your emails and then another whole load come again.
Yes.
It's the myth of Sisyphus. He's condemned to take a rock to the top of a hill and then watch it roll down again before he then has to take it back up again. And if we get the order wrong, you see, being precedes doing. And we say to yourself, and this is the mistakes I made countless times, was I will relax and be happy when I get such and such done.
Yes.
When I get to that mountain, then I can relax. The problem is it keeps shifting, and you just and you realize. I think what the realizations that I've had, and particularly this last year, is that there's always going to be way more for me to do than I'll ever do.
Yeah.
I'll always be behind on something. There's always going to be something. So why condemn myself about it? Why beat myself about it? And I've done that too much in the past. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's something that's, so I'm a self-published writer. Some people don't like the word self-published because they're like, well, you don't do it all yourself. But I look at it as I'm the only person who, is in charge. The buck for everything stops here.
Yes.
I'm the one who hires the other people who do the other parts of the job.
Yes.
So however, people like to say the word self-publishing or indie publishing, there is always, more that you could do to try to create a better book, create a better marketing campaign. So what are some of the things that maybe we could look at that use wisdom to help us to get a little bit more, a healthier perspective?
Wow, great question. I think, let me just take the first comment that you made there. One of the lies we tell ourselves is that I have to do it myself. Okay. And it's very deep rooted that somehow or other asking for help is a sign of weakness. The joke is that if you ask for help in school, so if you ask for help if you ask for help in most areas of life, it's called collaboration. If you ask for help in school, it's called cheating.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And yet there's no such thing as a self-made man or woman, a self-made person. There's no such thing as that. And in fact, we need each other. And it's actually much more fun to do things with. This is what I've discovered. Again, I've made all these mistakes in my life. Okay, so I just want to communicate that it's actually so much more fun to do things with others rather than to try to do it by yourself. And it's invariably better than anything I could have thought of like that. Yeah. So what was your question? I really want to catch that thought. Yeah.
So what are some of the ways that we can try to kind of like stop and look for wisdom to have a healthier perspective?
Yeah, I think it very much comes down to slowing and stopping. In the book, I've got four. I said there are four vital questions you need to ask. They're related to being, relating, doing, and leaving. And it's really important to get, I would say, to get that order right. So being first, okay, understanding who I am, relationships. You and I are people of faith, so it's relationship with God, relationship with others, okay? Doing, okay? Then what am I called to do, okay? If I get it wrong, if I start with the doing, then I'm going to look for my identity in my doing. So I'm only as good as my last job or whatever I've done.
Right.
And if I do badly in that, or if I make a mistake, then it's easy for that to crush me and say, rather than I failed at that or that was a mistake, I'm a failure, I'm a mistake. So, and also, if it's being, relating, doing, it's got to be goes back to the context of relationship, because I say this to others. Even if we don't get very far, you and I will have a good time. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll enjoy it, and anything else is, as it were, is the overflow. So it's doing stuff from over, and then the last thing is leaving, and ultimately with the realization that my time is limited, and to live with the reverence and the soberness of that, but still to have fun. It's not about being down, but leaving, the big question of leaving in terms of death, but also nothing is permanent. Jobs change, we move places, there are transitions, and so it's holding on to those things that last, and realizing how much of life is temporary as well.
Yeah. So it sounds like the onus of this kind of piece is on us stopping and thinking things through in this way.
Yeah, it starts from there. And I think the thing about wisdom is when we come to wisdom, we have an intractable problem that we don't know how to solve. And goodness me, have we got intractable problems in our society and world?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And I think one of the big problems is one of the myths that we tell ourselves is that we have to figure out and we have to sort it out ourselves. Now, again, people who are watching and listening to this can be of all sorts of backgrounds. So what I would also say is that however you look at life, we need something from outside of ourselves. So we come to needing wisdom, something from outside of ourselves. And I think the ultimate source of that, if you like, is the infinite intelligence that governs the universe. Now that can be difficult for some people, but I think wisdom, as I said, we come to wisdom realizing that I can't solve this myself, but also ultimately it brings us face to face with the big questions of life, the big existential questions of life. Why am I here? What am I called to do? What happens when I die? How do I live in harmony with the universe? Because if you get those things right, then everything in a sense fits into place. It doesn't mean to say you know all the answers, because the thing about wisdom is that I don't necessarily know the answers at all. But wisdom invites me into a relationship with this infinite intelligence, with God, and allows me in a sense to trust that he has my back and he is working things out, even though it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, I have to say that the times that I have been really stressed had far more to do than I had any idea how I would get it done. And it's not a lot of times, I'm trying to get into better practice at this, but the times that I've been able to say, okay, I probably can't do all of these things, and I just need to relax and trust that I will do the best I can with the things that I can. And some of it won't get done. And apparently that stuff is okay to not get done. And I don't know which things I'll do or not do, but I just have to relax and trust that somehow it's going to work itself out. And then I can find a little bit more peace in the midst of chaos. Absolutely. I don't know if that is the right way to do it, but that's what I've been working on.
Yeah, no, I think that there's a lot of truth in that. Again, keep reminding, being precedes doing, okay? Being, relating, and doing, getting that order right. And from a sort of spiritual perspective, both of us are disciples of Christ. And one of the things about Christ is that through his death on the cross and through his sacrifice for us, our acceptance is not based on what we do. It's based on what Christ has done for us, which means that the pressure is off.
Yeah.
See, what happens if I get it wrong? See, what I think is that God will love me more because I've done a really great podcast. God will love me more because I've written a really great book. God will love me more because I've done these good things. Well, the problem is, how much good is good enough?
Yeah.
I talk about it in the book. If you think of a normal distribution, the bell-shaped curve, and if you like, if we have goodness on the x-axis and number of people on the y-axis, then most people are somewhere in the middle, and we can agree on the extremes. So we might put, I don't know, Stalin and Hitler on one side, and put Mother Teresa on one side here, and the rest of us are somewhere in the middle there. Okay.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that if we say, we can agree that, Stalin and Hitler deserve punishment for what they've done. And we can agree that Mother Teresa, because of the wonderful things that she did, she deserves her sainthood for her. But all the rest of it, where are you going to draw the line? Is it going to be at 51% or 50%? And if we're going to put a line at 50 or 51%, say 50%, we put the line. What about the poor guy or woman who's at 49%? Are we going to say that they're condemned? This is the problem about trying to do good, to not just to please God, whether or not you believe in him, but even to please myself. But I realize I don't even live up to my own standards, let alone God's standards. I don't live up to my own.
Me too.
So what chance have we got? And the problem is we can become very focused on that. Whereas what I realize is through through his death and through his resurrection, I'm totally accepted. I'm a beloved child because of what he's done. So I say to God, don't accept me because of the things I've done. Accept me because of what Jesus has done. And Jesus has lived a perfect life. And therefore, I can relax. Because otherwise, what happens is that if I have a good day, then I feel really good. But the problem is I can become very proud and self-righteous. Oh, I'm not like those other people who waste their time. Well, that's pride. Or I make a bad day. You know, this is the whole ego thing. Or I have a bad day and I think, oh, I'm a complete failure and a complete disaster. I've done nothing that I want to. And that's pride. That's ego as well. But it's actually no. It's all about, is I'm totally loved and accepted because of what Christ has done. So the pressure is off. I'm a beloved son or daughter. I'm a beloved child, so I'm not out of the family. I can't be kicked out. And that's incredibly liberating. It's easy to say intellectually, but you begin to realize that you're doing this on different levels. And I might say it, and then something goes wrong, and I feel a failure. Well, that's showing that actually I'm saying that I believe in grace, but actually I'm living as though my performance matters. And so it's having the space and time to reflect on that, as well as the fact that, we are body, mind, and spirit. So going back to your earlier question about burnout, is one of the things we forget is that we, and again, I've done this. So I'm not just a brain that's attached to a body. I am, I am a full body, and so if I'm hungry or tired, okay, it's very easy for me to get angry and frustrated, or the world to look a complete mess and disaster because I haven't had enough food or I haven't had enough sleep. And those are simple, basic things. But it's so easy to forget if we're passionate about something or so we have to get a task or something done.
Yeah. I have to say, as much as we may love to laugh at, the science fiction movies where there's a head in a box and they've managed to keep the consciousness, the body's gone, but the head is there because that's where everything is. And I look at stuff like that, and every once in a while I think, that's how I treat myself so often. Like this body is just carrying around the only part of me that matters. And I forget it's not the only part of me that matters.
Actually, I was listening before this to the interview that you did, not the interview, the conversation you did on mindset. And then you get the whole issue about that story around that experiment with a researcher about the woman standing there and then people sort of saying positive things or negative things and how it expressed itself in the body like that. And I think that's what we're understanding, that we are called to be fully integrated, as it were. But the thing is, we tend to compartmentalize and separate things out.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So this is something that I saw on your website, and I thought it was super interesting. And so I just wanted you, if you didn't mind, to tell us a little bit more about this. From your book, on your website, you have some bullet points about things we'll learn in your book. And I have to say that, just being on your website, I'm like, I got to buy this book. It looks so interesting.
Thank you.
So one of the bullet points was navigate your ego to be your greatest asset and not just a liability. Can you tell us what you're thinking there?
Yeah. So in the book, I talk about the issue about how do we develop wisdom. And one of the first things is managing your ego. Now, when we think of ego, if we say he's got an ego, she's got an ego, we're not giving them a compliment. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But the point is, we all have an ego. We all have it. And the question is, how much prominence are we giving that? So naturally we go towards too much ego, which becomes arrogance. But too little ego becomes, as it were, well, I'm a nobody, I've got nothing to give, I'm a waste of space. That's actually also very destructive as well. It's manage your ego is having, as it were, humility. But again, humility is not, there's a quote from C.S. Lewis, which is humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. It's that important distinction, which is the word, which is everything really. And so it's in a sense to be so in the moment and to be so absorbed with what I'm called to do and who I'm called to be, that I don't actually care whether you like, well, obviously I want you to like me, but if you don't like me, that's okay as well. Because, again, the phrase is the rich simplicity of being yourself, which is priceless, really.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to prove myself to you. There's something I believe and I'm passionate about. But whether you accept it or reject it, if you reject it, okay, I'll be sad, but it's not going to devastate me. I'm not going to say, that somehow or other I'm diminished as a person, because I'm comfortable with who I am and who God has made me to be. And I know I'm totally accepted and loved by him. And so it's getting that right balance of ego, because none of us totally masters it in this life. It's always, and so it's being realistic about that. And so it's things like, when am I being defensive? Where, if somebody says that they think, if somebody says, your book, Sunil, is crazy and ridiculous. Okay, that's a shame that you think that, but I'm not personally crushed by it, by criticism. I don't have to start saying because they think the book's rubbish that I'm rubbish. No, right. I can separate myself out from that. Or the comparison. I mean, goodness, this as authors, the comparison game. You do your book and you get a few reviews and you think, I've got so many reviews, and then you go look at somebody else and they've got 10,000 reviews. Yeah. And you think, oh my goodness me, what have I achieved? What have I done?
Right. Yeah.
It's always that because there's always somebody behind you and there's always somebody ahead of you.
Yeah.
And we're not J.K. Rowling or whatever. It's just way, it's just mind blowing what they're doing, and you're thinking, well, okay, I haven't really done very much at all, really. But and
I'm sure, J.K. Rowling, human being, so I'm sure she wakes up and has the same kinds of struggles on various days as anybody else, writer or not.
I'll tell you this. One of my privileges has been, working as a coach and a psychiatrist. And I've worked with some people who are incredibly high performers. You look at them and you think, wow. But you get behind the curtain, you get into the room and you listen to their story and you come to see that they're still trying to please a parent who died many years ago. They're still trying to quieten that inner critic inside them. And they're just fabulous in the things they're achieving. And you think, oh my goodness, this goes deep, and again, that was my journey because, and in a sense, that's what I talk about in the book. So when I hit, when I hit 36 years of age, in a sense, I appeared to have it all. If you looked at my life at that point, happily married, financially secure, third child just born, doing some leadership responsibilities in my church, become a consultant psychiatrist, so reached the top of the career ladder. And yet, inside, I felt incredibly empty. And in a sense, that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, because I began to realize that this is not just my experience. This is something that's actually endemic around the world. Because, in the past, you'd say, well, if I had more money, if I had more resources. Well, for many of us in the West, we've never had it better. If you could have told our grandparents, Kitty, in 50 years time, 60 years time, you'll be able to talk with anybody around the world. You can do it instantaneously and you can send documents everywhere and you can have conference calls with people all over the world. They'd say, you're living in heaven, is what they'd say. that time has come, but we're definitely not in heaven.
Yeah,
we're definitely not in heaven. Yeah. No matter in all the advances that we've got, it's never been a more miserable time, and yet it's never been a time of greater. Authors, Charles Dickens in *Tale of Two Cities*. What does he say? He says it was the best of times and it was the worst of times.
Yeah.
And where are you going to focus? Because you're going to find reasons for both. And if you put all your attention on why it's the worst of times, it's not surprising you're going to be depressed, stressed, burnt out, angry, frustrated, because it'll feel. But if you can say, well, look, isn't this amazing, this world, God has given us and the opportunities we have? Well, it really is the best of times as well.
Yeah. Especially like you said, if you can separate out your doing from who you are, your being, then I would think that would become easier then to look at the world as a better place, and your life as a pretty fantastic one.
Well, and I think also that, I didn't choose to be born at this time, into this family, into this period of history. I mean, I could have been born in the 5th century in Mongolia.
Yeah.
Or in Afghanistan. You know, I mean, I could have been there. There's no reason why I wasn't. And so you begin to realize that actually everything is of grace. Everything is a gift. And there's G.K. Chesterton's got this lovely phrase, the sacred intoxication of being.
Wow.
It's beautiful, sacred intoxication of being. So this life, you know, people want to get intoxicated with drink, drugs, Netflix binges and things like that. But this sacred intoxication, I've been given a life, I've been given a body, I've been given opportunities. Okay. Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Rather than complaining and entitlement and this is not fair and they did this to me in my childhood and, you know, that happened. This kind of victim kind of mindset that's so prevalent in our world, which is so disempowering.
Right.
But it's reconnecting with the one. I mean, again, this goes back to Winter, because you see about wisdom is, you know, one of the proverbs is the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And fear, not in the sense of you know, God's somehow going to get me and going to beat me up because I'm not, but fear in the sense of reverence. And, you know, I've got a body, you know, I've got hands that work. I can talk. You know, there's somebody in hospital somewhere who can't use their hands and legs, who's wishing that they could walk or they could communicate. I mean, how does this amazing body work? It's just incredible. I've got health.
Yeah.
You know, it could be taken away, but, you know, it's I've got today, you know.
You know, it's so funny. I just watched a Netflix movie that in my mind, you know, as of today, I'm like, it's the most wonderful love story ever.
Yeah.
So it's a movie called Breathe. And it's with Claire Foy, who was the queen on the TV show The Crown, and Andrew Garfield, who I know as being Spider-Man a while back.
Okay, yeah.
And it's based on a true story, produced by the son of the couple that these two actors represent. And it's about this couple who had like this amazing, beautiful, fantastic life. And then he caught polio and was suddenly and immediately permanently paralyzed from the neck down, and was just stowed away in a hospital.
So this is a true story, is it?
It's a true story, yeah. Starts in the, I think the story starts in the late 50s, somewhere around there. And so altogether, like, I don't want to give too much away on the one hand, but the point is that his wife didn't give up on him, and he just happened to be, like you say, you know, like, why was I born now, or why was I born here, why was I born in this family? He happened to be like in the center of a group of friends and family who absolutely loved him so much that they just put their creativity to work and tried to figure out, how can we make his life not what the doctors say that it's going to be? And so apparently a guy invented a wheelchair and invented a ventilator that will work on a battery in this wheelchair. And this man not only started traveling around again, like he went to Spain and other places, but also they got some other people to donate money so that they could build more wheelchairs and get more people out of the hospital. And I was like, oh my gosh, like the love story of the husband and wife and the friends of his, and how he never forgot like these people that he used to be in a bed next to in the hospital, that he just chose to find joy in his life. Even though he was paralyzed from the neck down, and he was probably going to die, you know, sooner than all of his friends. Beautiful, and it was amazing. You're like, how does someone just keep on finding the good in every day? You know,
that's right. So and that's on Netflix, is it? That's
it
Breathe.
is.
Okay, it's called Breathe. Okay, I should look out for it. That sounds fascinating. Wow.
So that, and what you were saying, and part of what's in your bio, you know, so that people can create the life they hunger for and still have time for family, friends, and fun, which I have not been taking a good amount of time for family, friends, and fun. I give time to my husband, but there's a lot of other things that I'm not satisfied with how much time that I spend just not working, or how much time I'm, you know, spending emailing or getting on calls with my family in another country. And I feel like all of these pieces you can speak to as a writer as well, because at one point, if I understand right, you had this full-time job and you were writing a book and you had family and friends. So
yes,
can you kind of talk about, I'm sure that there were some ironic moments too, when you're like, I'm writing this book about this, and I'm really struggling to do it now in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the book took a long time. I mean, the book was on my mind for at least 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And before that, I actually, the books were actually started as a series of blog posts. So I blogged consistently for about 4 years. I think every week for about 4 years I was blogging, trying to, in a sense, it was a bit like a jigsaw puzzle, because I gave the story earlier on about the subject of wisdom is I've slowly realized it's actually been chasing me all of my life.
Yeah. And
so as I was putting the pieces together, I began to realize the theme is wisdom. This is what it is. And so there were the blog posts, and then I also got a podcast as well. I mean, the blog's it's at drsunil.com, and so that's how those pieces. I forgot what your question was, but that's how the pieces came together like that.
Yeah, and so so that's really interesting. Like, for anybody who's thinking, I kind of want to write a nonfiction book, but you could just start by blogging about your topic and seeing whether something comes of it.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I think the key thing is you've got to enjoy the process. You really have to enjoy the process. You must not say, I'll be happy when the book comes out. Because one of the things I've discovered is that anything worth doing, and really hold on to it, always takes longer than you think, will take more out of you than you realize, but we will be worth it in the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think once you accept that, and somebody said something to me which really struck with me. Well, there are a couple of things actually. One was that that the fact that you tend to overestimate what you can achieve in a year, but underestimate what you can achieve in 5 years or 10 years.
Yeah.
So there's that side. And the other thing that kept me going, so I published through, it's a sort of like a self-publishing group called Author Academy Elite. That's who I published through. And one of their coaches said to me, and this really kept me going. She said to me, so whatever you write, when the book gets out, you've got to remember that once it's written, it's like fossilized. It's basically the words are there on the paper, and that's it. You will, you should be growing as a person. So when you look at the book, say in 5 years' time or 10 years' time, you're going to be embarrassed by what you wrote. You're going to say, did I really say that? Because my thinking has gone on so much further than that. And so that kept me going, because as I was, writing, I was thinking, is this any good? And I was thinking, whatever it is, I'm going to be embarrassed by it in 5 or 10 years anyway. So let's just get it out. Let's get it out.
Just get it out.
And the other big thing, this issue about relationship. So the plan I had was to release it. I mean, the deadline kept getting delayed, but my plan was I finished my government job with the British NHS at the end of July 2020. So the deadline I'd set myself about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years earlier, was I want to have the book ready to give to my work colleagues on the day that I leave, basically.
Oh, yeah.
To say goodbye. Well, it never happened. And actually, I showed that it wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't going to happen. So I had to accept that. And then I showed it to some friends. And one particular friend, Simon, was very, very gracious. He looks at it, he said, Sunil, you've got lots of good content here, but you need it to get, it needs to go through another edit. I mean, it had already gone through a couple of edits, and I think I know someone who can do that. And it's going to cost you. So I took a deep breath. And I remember, what that coach has said to me is, whatever you write, you're going to be embarrassed by. But I thought, no, let me give it my best shot that I can. And so what I then did was we did another re-edit that took a lot of the fall of 2020. But the other thing was, and I haven't mentioned this before, is the book is dedicated to a friend of mine who died suddenly on the 17th of March, 2014. And I talk about that in the book in quite a lot of detail. And I suddenly realized that actually, let's make the launch date the 17th of March, 2021, because that will be exactly 7 years to the day that he passed on.
Yeah.
And that will be the book's dedicated to him. At the end of the book, there's a tribute to his life as well. And he was like a younger brother to me. And I thought that would be a really great way to honor. But it never crossed my mind then what happened was, so I thought actually, and I felt quite settled with that. And I thought, well, actually, what I was going to do was going to then try to launch it just before Christmas. But then somebody said to me, just before Christmas is not a good time. And I thought, well, no, let's just take the pressure off completely. Let's make it the 17th of March, 2021. And then what I did was with this guy who was the editor, who is that every morning for about 2 or 3 weeks, we would sit on a Zoom call like this. And what he would do is he would go through it and he would edit the language and tighten it. And then we would go through it line by line, as it were, just tightening up the language and then having these fascinating conversations about the things that were written. And we had a great time. Okay.
Wow.
And it was such a privilege and enjoyable thing to do it with this guy, John. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was a great experience. So, it took a lot more out of me, financially, emotionally, psychologically, blood, sweat, and tears. But it was great fun as well, actually. And I really began to think, actually, I really believe in this book. I really believe in what I'm writing. I'm excited about it, because, you have this love-hate relationship with writing. I mean, you have this huge love-hate relationship. So you want to get out there, and then you then sit there and your mind just goes blank.
Yeah.
And so doing it with John was great fun. But also, in the earlier parts I would just say to myself, look, I'd set a timer. I mean, some days it was just literally, I'm going to spend, you talked about doing that with working. Okay, I'm going to spend 15 minutes on the book today. That's it. And if I just sit here with the alarm going on 15 minutes, then I've won.
Yeah.
Because you've got to create a game that you can win. Okay.
Right.
And that, it's like you put one brick on top of another brick. Eventually a wall comes. Eventually there'll be a house. There'll be a building.
Yeah.
And that's all you're doing. You're just putting one brick on top of another brick. And some days it feels just so slow and you wonder how on earth is this going to come together. I mean, yeah, will this ever come to fruition? Will it? But like I said, anything worth doing always takes longer. It takes more out of you than you expect, but it's always worth it in the end.
Yeah.
And I can say that now on the other side of it. It really has been. And I've changed so much as a person as well. So, it's, no matter how much it blesses others, I've, going through the process has been enormously, life enhancing for me. So from a selfish point of view, it's helped me a lot, but I pray and trust it can bless and encourage others as well.
Yeah. And so do you think that it's also encouraged you to get back into regular writing? You said that you had a regular blog post only for 4 years. Yes, I shouldn't say only. 4 years is awesome, but it sounds like that means that at some point it ended.
Yeah, well, it ended because the book wasn't getting done.
Oh.
So basically I had to say, look, and I think this is a lesson I'm learning, is that if you're going to do something, you've got to stop doing something else. Because I'm my worst enemy in this, right? Because I believe that I can just keep on taking things on. Oh yeah, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do. Yeah, of course, I'll do this, and I'll work it. It'll work out. It never works out.
Yeah, that is so me. I don't know why I cannot learn this lesson. Like, I'm in my 5th decade. When am I going to learn this lesson?
I mean, the way I've reconciled it is that in eternity, again, this becomes a faith issue. In eternity, we will literally have all the time in the world. Yeah. Okay? So we're going to be able to do all of that. And so I think there are some lies that our society and culture tells us that are so deeply rooted. One of those, I think, is, again, is that there is no God, and that when you die, you stop existing. Basically, That's it, finito. That's the end of life. You just disappear. And I think that's a huge lie, but also it's incredibly liberating, because what you begin to realize, and so some of the ways that manifests is, 100, books like 100 Things You Must Do Before You Die. You've seen those books. You've got to get these experiences packed in, or you haven't lived.
Yeah.
And the problem is, it creates a scarcity mindset that, in this COVID world, I'm sure I know friends and family who have died through COVID, and so that's even more of a reason to think I've got to make the most of my time.
Yeah.
But when you've got an eternal perspective, you begin to realize actually it's okay, because this life, if you like, is the warm up for the real living. So we haven't really started living yet.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And I think that also on days that I can remember that this is, like you said, just the warm up, then for some reason, I don't know why I can't keep all these thoughts in my head at the same time. It make everything easier. But on those days, then I can go, oh, well, then I know the thing that I want to write now, because this is the thing that's important now.
Yes.
And these other things, if I write them or don't write them, like I want to, but if I'm just talking about what's the most important thing for me to do right now, I really want to finish this Encouragement for Writers book that I wrote an entire first draft in a month. And then I just got really nervous that maybe I don't have anything to say regarding encouragement, or maybe it's not enough, or maybe it's just like everybody else's.
But your voice is unique. Your angle is unique, and that needs to be appreciated. So, and there are people for whom your voice it's the only way they'll hear it. It might be the same information, but because it's coming through you and your personality, they'll hear it. And I think that was what liberated me, because I felt exactly the same. There's nothing new in this book, honestly. And I've pinched stuff, and I've tried to give as much credit as I can. But there's so much stuff from other people. We're standing on shoulders of giants, aren't we? Yeah. And the stuff that they've done. But because it's coming through my voice and my personality and my struggles, that's a unique angle. Yeah. And that is hugely valid. And it'd be the same for you, Kitty, as well. Exactly the same for you. Yeah.
And I'm guessing that you can understand this feeling too. I hear myself saying stuff like that, and I think, I'm a writing coach. I actually give this advice to other people. But I try to remember that it's okay for my clients and other people to see that also when I'm the writer, I have the same fears and insecurities as any other person putting their heart down onto paper.
Yeah, that's right. We all have that. Exactly. Yeah. And that takes courage, obviously, to do that and to work through that awkwardness, as it were. Yeah. No, that's wonderful. Yeah. But it's all of us. Yeah. Courage is not doing things without fear. It's still being afraid, but still moving forward, isn't it? It's still moving forward afraid.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and the need for courage never goes away. You never outgrow it, because you're always going to need courage.
That's too bad. I wish you could just be like, and I'm done.
Magic word. But I think the problem with it is, if you think about it, if that were the case, then we wouldn't need relationship.
Yeah.
We wouldn't need relationship with our creator, and we wouldn't need relationship with each other. So in a way, it's a severe mercy as well, because it reminds us of our dependence. And I think the other key thing is that and again, I'm always trying to, as it were, compete with God in running the universe, because I think I'm a control freak. If I could control my whole diary, everything I do, I would have it all. I have my planner. I basically run the world in my planner. Basically, I just. Problem is, then there's no need for God. But what happens is, when I worry and when I fret and when I beat myself up, I'm basically trying to run the universe.
Yeah.
And and that's way beyond my pay grade. It's way beyond. It's just not.
And when you talk about relationships, like all the different kinds of relationships, even something that can be pretty easy to take for granted, but yesterday I just had a day where for some reason, I don't know, did I not eat enough protein for breakfast? I don't know, but I just had a really insecure day yesterday.
Right.
And my husband must have told me 4 or 5 or 6 times, you can do it. You always get through this. You'll get 10 minutes into it and all the fear will disappear. Yes. And he would tell me all these things. And every time he did, I was like, I love you more than I did 10 minutes ago. And then by the end of the day, I'm like, you're the best husband in the whole world. But if I didn't have a reason to need him, then I would forget how wonderful he can be and how much I love him.
That's very helpful. Yeah, that's a very good perspective. Yeah, I suppose so. Your weakness makes you realize that's right, your dependency, and then to appreciate what you do have. Yeah, exactly. No, that's beautiful. Yeah,
I think that I'm not sure that I've put it in words before. Like I've thought it, but I'm not sure I've put it in words before. But I think it could apply probably to all of my human relationships and my relationship with God. If I felt like I could do everything and never had a need and never felt insecure, then
Well, that's right. Yeah. Well, I think it connects us more and more with our humanness as well. That's the key thing. But I think there's so much within us that wants to do it by ourselves. I mean, it goes back to to be being toddlers, mummy, daddy, I can do it by myself. I don't
Yeah.
need anybody, that kind of thing. But no, it's part of being human. And I think, that's again, because what you begin to realize is that everything is interrelated and interdependent. And again, you asked about ego at the beginning. Ego and pride, if you like, pride is the big danger. One of the definitions I use of pride is a ruthless, unsmiling concentration on the self. And literally, it's the universe is revolving around me, and it's ruthless, unsmiling concentration on the self. And ego in a this sort of revolving around me in a 2-year-old, that's cute, because you see a 2-year-old and they're fascinated by everything around them, and things disappear, they don't exist, and they appear, they exist, and they. But ego in a 52-year-old is not cute.
Yeah.
About an unhealthy ego. So that's what we're trying to manage. Is and I think that's part of the growth, is that actually it's not about me. It isn't about me. But when I'm secure that I'm loved and accepted, and I've got an important role to, the being, relating, doing, leaving. Once I've got that clear, then I don't feel that I've got anything to hide or defend. It goes back to the rich simplicity of being myself before God. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Which is priceless, absolutely priceless. Because when you think about how many people have got masks on their faces, they've got a role to fulfill. They can't really be their true selves, because if they, say what they really think or be who they really are, then they're worried about the impact that will have.
Yeah.
But just to be yourself, that's again, I can't keep saying it's priceless.
Yeah. So it sounds like your book and I'm guessing your podcast, because of the words dancing with wisdom, it sounds like maybe this is about helping you keep wisdom close, not just finding it once and like, now I've got it, I don't need to look anymore. Yes.
So I think, the title came quite late. But I think what I'm trying to convey with the word dancing is a whole body experience. It conveys emotion as well, and joy and freedom.
Yeah.
And the other thing about dancing is, when you're dancing with your dance partner, you have to be very mindful about what they're doing. And there's a degree of uncertainty and mystery about what's going to happen next. And so you need to be very respectful and almost reverential in terms of what they're doing, so you can, as it were, respond appropriately.
Right.
And it's so much fun as well when it's done well. But it conveys the uncertainty and the emotion, the joy, and that's why I sort of settled the word dancing. And you're right, you never feel you finally crack it. And I think and the other sort of the more sort of mystical element of it is you have the divine dance of the Trinity as well, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and we are invited into that dance. So it's an invitation to become the fully alive human being you were always intended to be.
Yeah.
That's the invitation. That's the enticement, as it were, like that. Yeah.
I love this. Okay, so obviously I could keep on talking and asking you more questions for so long. But since I'm trying to keep my interviews to a reasonable length.
Yes, that's my point now. I appreciate that. Yeah.
It's killing me, but I'm trying. So tell us, I know on your website, it says that we can get a free chapter of your book to try it out, see if we like it.
Absolutely. So the introduction is at drsunil.com. So that's drsunil.com. And you can download a free chapter there. The book is available though on Audible, on Amazon, on Kindle. So it's available on there. And after you've gone to a book, there is a workbook you can get as well. And details on how to get that are on the website as well.
Also on the website. Okay. I like the idea of the workbook. I'm like, I want to write down my thoughts so I don't just like have them once and then lose them.
Yes. Well, actually, and I think that's a great point as well, Kitty, because I think one of my aims in the book is obviously I've written it from my life journey, my experiences, and I've tried to be as transparent and open as I can. And by doing that, I hope that then gives permission to the reader to reflect on their own life. Because remember, the tagline is a sacred quest to restore meaning, purpose, and fun to your life and work. So we are all on a sacred quest, whether we recognize it or not. And we're trying to put together, the good, the bad, and the ugly of our lives, and trying to make sense of it and say, this is my mess. What is it you're trying to teach me? And how can I grow and develop to become the fully alive human being you always intended me to be.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. Wow. Okay. As soon as we get off the call, I'm probably just going to go buy your book right now because I'm so interested.
Okay.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. We really appreciate it. Between the topic of the book, Dancing with Wisdom, and how to use that in our own life and how to search for it and work with it. And then also just your process of how you came to write your first book, all of those shared experiences, I'm sure, are encouraging to other people who either haven't started or have been struggling through, the process of writing the first bok.
Yes.
So
yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
A pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, so so it's at drsunil.com, and I think that's probably the last thing I'll probably say to those listening or watching is that you just have one wild, precious life. What are you going to do with it? And if I can help you on your personal quest, I'll be delighted if you get the book at drsunil.com, the first chapter, or on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. So thank you so much. And thank you again for this time, Kitty. Really enjoyed talking to you.